You are Locked On Falcons POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Falcons POSTCAST, your home for the best Atlanta Falcons football talk. It's local insight you can't get anywhere but right here at Locked On. I'm your host, Tanitra Batiste. Alongside me are Jarvis Davis and Aaron Freeman. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidate you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And of course, the Locked On Falcons POSTCAST is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So guys, we finally get some game action down off South Beach. So let's go right in and download on game one, where the Falcons took on, of course, the Miami Dolphins. Went down 20-13, but not so much is it important what that final score was or whether or not the Falcons won or lost. The bottom line is that, hey, this is the first preseason game. You're taking on the Dolphins. You finally get some action. But then you didn't, because the Falcons didn't play 13 starters, key players on offense, and another 9 on defense. Jarvis, how do you feel about that?
I mean, to be honest with you, it was kind of expected. I knew that, there were certain guys that weren't going to play tonight, but I think the most important guy for me that was on the field, and we knew that more than likely he was going to get a lot of playing time, was 9. 9 got a lot of playing time. So for me, I wasn't too upset about it, but I did find it interesting that they sent out a laundry list right before, like, hey, none of these guys are playing tonight, so don't even think about it.
Exactly. How about you, Free? And that's what it felt like to me too. And again, not that I thought that we were going to see many of these guys in action, but I'll be honest, when I looked at the laundry list, I'm like, Darnell Mooney, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, and you can just keep going on and on. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you look at that list, Jesse Bates the third. Okay, that's obvious. But then you see D. Alford, Mike Hughes, and I don't know, it confused me a little bit.
Well, for me, those were the kind of the names that I was curious to see who would be off the list. Because, like, we're not going to see Kirk Cousins. We're not going to see Kyle Pitts. We're not going to see Grady Jarrett this entire preseason. Like, those guys aren't going to play. If we know who you are, you're not going to play this preseason, right? That's basically how it goes. And so it was going to be like the Mike Hughes and the Ray McLeods and the D. Alfords, guys that we think we're pretty confident are going to be starters, but like, are they getting the starter treatment in terms of sitting this first preseason game and maybe sitting multiple, if not all of the preseason games? So that to me was the most interesting thing from that list. But as Jarvis said, yeah, I did not expect a lot of those guys to play. I thought we might get a little bit of Troy Anderson and Nate Landman, just so me and Jarvis can fight about it on this podcast. But they're just like, we'll wait a week. So
so that Jarvis doesn't choose violence right out of the gates for the preseason. Yeah, they just decided that they were leaning into an abundance of caution there. But yeah, I too just thought I might see Darnell Mooney and Ray McLeod. Those were really the only two that stood out for me on the offensive side of the ball. And I agree with you on the defensive side. I kind of thought we would see Nate Landman and Troy Anderson. Those were a little bit shocking. But for the guys we did see, JD, we always see something that we like and something, well, not so much. So let's start here. Who were some of the winners for you tonight?
Wow. I got to start with MPX, right? Because when you think about him, just the sense of urgency that he has and not necessarily panicking when he's in the pocket and getting rid of the football and making a decision. I love how decisive he was. Like, he was getting that ball out of his hands. And then I also, like how he was able to connect with Casey Washington. I thought he made some good catches, even though there was one on the sidelines right there that wasn't in bounds, but he got his hands on it and he almost pulled that bad boy in. So I really liked that connection that they had. And I think overall, it was good to see Michael Penix get out there and sling the ball around a little bit with live bullets. And I thought the offensive line kind of protected him well. So, that's what you kind of look for, because, I mean, they even talked about it on the broadcast. When you think about, a number 8 overall pick and none of your starting offensive line are playing, and you're confident to put your product, that investment out there, right? That asset out there, behind those guys, that means you have a lot of confidence in those guys. Guys like Storm Norton, Kyle Hinton. And I know Aaron's going to do a deep dive into them on Locked On Falcons, so make sure you guys check that out tonight. I know y'all can't wait for that one, but yeah, it was really cool to see Michael Penix kind of operate that offense because he was just so decisive with the ball. He had a couple of accuracy issues, a couple overthrown balls, guys that they could have, had made a better throw, probably would have been a completion, but I think overall, just overall performance and operating the offense and having the command of it, it looked really good.
Yeah. What about you, Free? Who are some of the winners for you tonight, or the winner for you tonight?
Yeah, I thought Michael Penix was impressive. It didn't blow me away or anything, but I think sort of was exactly what I wanted to kind of see from him, showing the poise, showing the decision making. They were operating some quick game with him. That's something that he didn't do a lot at Washington, just because like they were just bombs away all the time. But I always thought like this is something that he could do at a high level, and I thought he was being decisive in the ways, as Jarvis said, just a couple of throws here or there where he kind of had to make his guys work a little bit harder to get the football than you would ideally want. But that was kind of an issue at Washington, and I didn't expect all that to kind of get cleaned up in his first preseason game. That's something that the Falcons going to have to work through, over the next 2+ years or whatever it is. Yeah. So basically, it was exactly what I wanted to see for Michael Penix, a solid debut for him. That was one of the few players that kind of impressed me in this game. The only other player that I would probably say was a winner was Zach Harrison. He, to me, consistently impressed me, getting pressure, blowing up some plays. The Kevin King interception, he had a nice pressure on that play to kind of force that ball to be off target and allow Kevin King to make that play. So to me, it was nice to sort of see Zach Harrison kind of step up, and look like he's making that year 2 jump that we were all hoping for.
Yeah. And I think that's, like you said, it's sort of like a sneak peek into what it is that we're looking for out of him, and feels like he delivered. Now, on the flip side, oftentimes, especially in that first preseason game, we're going to have a lot of losers. So real talk, JD, Free, you guys go right in and tell me who you were like, yeah, that wasn't it tonight.
Oh man, I hate to do this, but I feel like JD Bertrand left a couple plays out there that he should be able to make. Like when you think about what he was able to do at Notre Dame, and being that tackle machine that he was, and for him to have opportunities to make plays, make a tackle for loss, and especially down there when when Miami was down in the red zone, I'm talking about he shot right through that bad boy, and the linebacker he just totally missed the running back. And I was just like, dude, what are you doing? You got to make that play. That is an NFL linebacker type play, because those are the plays that you have to make. And, if you want to be able to make this squad. So for me, I felt like there were a couple of plays that he left out there that he should have made. I don't care what round you drafted in, because the dude understands football. He played at a big time program at Notre Dame. So I expect him to make plays like that. So I feel like he has a lot to kind of really dive into the film and be able to, from a technique standpoint, because hey, these running backs in the league, man, they're different. I believe it was Jeff Wilson was the running back that he missed that tackle on. So when you think about the type of caliber of players that they have that Miami had out there, they didn't have the starters, granted, but they did have starting caliber players out there. Man, you got them. That's a prime opportunity to show the coaches like, hey man, I belong on this squad.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, for me, the lack of run game was my concern. As Jarvis said, the second string offensive line that started this game did a good job protecting, but they just really struggled clearing holes because Miami defenders were just like 3 yards deep in the backfield, pretty much like every play. They had like 11 yards rushing at the half on like 9 carries. So some ridiculous stat line that was just gross. And, I know Raheem Morris was like, we got to get the run game. They did do a better job in the second half, and finished with 80 yards rushing, but it was tough sledding, right? I think the Falcons had like 16 possessions in this game just because an average NFL game is supposed to have like 10. I think the Falcons gave Penix 5 series thinking like, oh, he's going to play an entire half because you only get like 10 or 12 possessions in a game and 5 is like half of a game. And then it was like we just running through series like that I think we had like 10 in the first half, some ridiculous number. And it's like, because they couldn't sustain any offense because they couldn't run the football really at all. And especially late in the game with like Nathan Rourke, he's only been on the team for like a week. He doesn't know the offense. And so like you need to be able to run the football in order to sustain offense with him on the roster. And so to me, overall, the O-line wasn't necessarily up to par in terms of clearing those holes in the run game. So they were kind of the losers for me, at least the overall run game.
Yeah.
Can I add one more, T? Aaron, free. Can I add one more? Taylor Heineke. That was a little cheeky tonight. It was a remnants of the offense from last year, and a remnants of the offense this year for the Atlanta Braves. It's just stinky. It like he couldn't complete a pass. He was overthrowing cats. You got fumble snaps. I was like, procedural issues. I'm just like, what is this? This dude has been in the league for what, 4 or 5 years now? Like, man, Taylor Heineke got his bags packed, Jack. Like, it is time for him to go. Like, let's work on Nathan Rourke and get him some reps. Like, make sure he can be on that practice squad and be that emergency quarterback, because Taylor Heineke is not it. He looked bad. Like, ever since 9 went out the game, that offense was just
garbage.
Yeah, basically, yes. Or cheeky, however you want to put it. It was, or cheeks, as the young folks say. However you want to put it. But yeah, that was not good. Sorry.
No, because I was gonna go back and give my winner and my loser. And for me, my winner was Younghoe Koo, because in tight games, I want to know that my kicker can hit the 53-yarder. So it was good to see him. That was that Younghoe Koo that we were accustomed to, the Pro Bowl version of Younghoe Koo. So I was actually excited about what I saw from him, but I would have to agree with you on the loser. Like, yeah, I felt like Taylor Heineke was already at Hartsfield-Jackson, or he was just going to leave out of Miami-Dade International Airport, I think is what
it started with a certain picture that he took. I ain't gonna just leave it at that.
It was just, it was one of those where we see why, even with Nathan Rourke having, a few misses here and there, but like you said, Free, only been in the offense for a week, so what can you expect? But he actually did look a little better than other dude. Anyway, we saw some things happen early and late that we definitely didn't want to see. We'll download on it in the deep dive. This episode of the Locked On Falcons Postcast is brought to you by eBay Motors and brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. So think about this. We were absolutely hoping for a win, but it's the preseason, so you really don't need a win per se. But what you are looking for is to be a fan that is a ride or die fan, just like you want your car to be a ride or die. So the passion, the drive, the patience, we talked about some of that with Michael Penix Jr. that we saw tonight. That's the same formula for winning championships with your car. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more for your ride or die. So whether it's speed, power, or in my case, style, with my seat covers, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. So with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. And all the parts you need at the prices you want makes it easy to make your car the MVP. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply, and eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. This episode of our Locked On Falcons Postcast is also brought to you by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/lockedon and get on your way to being your best self. So when you think about your schedule, it's packed, especially for parents now that school is back in session. So kids' activities coupled with them and whatever they have to do at school, big projects that may be coming up for them, big work projects coming up for you. Sometimes it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire, to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, guys. We hate to see this at any time, but I think sometimes it hurts even more in the preseason or at training camp when you see a guy go down. And Free, tonight we saw some key injuries in the game that may be of a concern of ours. So for you, when you saw DeMarcco Hellams go down early, when you saw Braylon Trice go down late, you hope that those aren't serious injuries, but what would that mean for the Falcons if they had to go without these guys to start the season?
Well, I think because we don't really know what we have with those two guys, it's hard to look at these injuries as like devastating just because like you just don't know exactly what they were going to do this year, right? You're hoping for contributions from both of those guys. Hellams in the mix with Richie Grant, but it was kind of telling that going back to what we talked about there, that Richie Grant was inactive in this game and DeMarcco Hellams was out there playing and got injured, like I think on the second or third play of the game. And so it's devastating for DeMarcco Hellams, but I think with the Falcons, they have enough guys at safety with Micah Abernathy and Dane Cruikshank who have played in the league that if they do need a third option, I think they have the depth. It's just a question of the real issue is Richie Grant going to be the good starting safety that you want him to be? And DeMarcco Hellams was that really good insurance policy in the event that Richie Grant doesn't live up to what you thought he was this upcoming season. And then with Braylon Trice, obviously a young up and coming player that you were hoping was going to be a major contributor to your pass rush. But again, it's kind of a similar conversation because you just don't really know what you have at edge at this point in time. So it's devastating for Braylon Trice if he is going to miss time because obviously like you had a lot of hope and optimism for what he could add to that room. But I think at this point in time, just because like we don't really know what the Falcons have at edge, that it's hard to sort of really gauge, like, is this a huge loss or is this just a minor setback in a group that, no one had high expectations for to begin with, I guess.
Indeed. And like you said, we don't know anything quite yet. Of course, our Falcons analyst for our Atlanta football party, Tori McElhaney, tweeted from her colleague, Taryn Wack, that head coach Raheem Morris talked about both injuries post-game. And he did say, of course, he'd have a better feel tomorrow after making sure that those guys get back to Atlanta and get checked out by their medical staff. But for you, JD, what does it mean? Or what did you think when you saw those guys go down?
I think Free makes a good point as far as, not really knowing what to expect from those guys. So you can't really say how devastating the injury is. But here's where I'm at with it. I feel like the injury to Hellams there's a sense of urgency behind bringing someone in versus, Braylon Trice going down, because I feel like there are some edge guys that can, possibly come in and that are on this roster. I feel that can probably give you what Trice probably would have given you, and not saying that, he's talking about 6-7 sacks. I'm talking about maybe a couple sacks, maybe a couple of breathers for a guy like Arnold Ebiketie. I know he was working early on in that nickel package, but I feel like more than likely he wasn't going to be the guy that kind of stick around to be there consistently. So I feel like a guy like Damon Harris, I like what I saw of him tonight. I feel like he can be a guy that can come in and kind of take those reps if we're talking about, immediately replacing him. But I feel like DeMarcco Hellams is the one that concerns me the most because you see the air cast being carted off. So, is there
earlier in the week with Rondale Moore and
right. So, I feel like that is a safety probably would be a little bit more. They'll probably be coming up the line to Terry Fontenot's desk, like, we might need to go take a look at a couple of safeties and bring some guys in because, like, even though I feel like Hellams, I like Hellams over Grant, in that spot, but even if he wasn't going to be the starter, I feel like he was going to have a solidified role in this defense, in Jimmy Lake's defense. So I feel like for that reason, I feel like that safety spot is going to be a need for the Falcons to kind of start going fishing a little bit or start making some phone calls.
Yeah. Free, speaking of Jimmy Lake, what did you think about him in terms of the play calling on defense tonight?
It seemed fine. It was fine. Like, it's preseason. I'm not going to sit here and get too caught up on, well, why did he call that on third down? It's like, get these guys out there, let them run around, hit some people. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. Put guys in a position to make tackles, to cover guys. They did that. So, it's on the players. Like Jarvis was talking about with JD Bertrand. Like, that wasn't on the Jimmy Lake issue. That was JD Bertrand got to make that play, right?
Sure.
So it was fine. I got no complaints. No complaints.
Yeah, I think that, that run defense was just it was a little soft, and for prime example of the guy we talked about that needs to be the guy to make that jump this year is Arne Ebiketie. Like, that man was getting blocked by a tight end. Like, you don't supposed to be getting blocked by no tight end, sir. I'm sorry. I don't care. And specifically a backup tight end. That wasn't the starting tight end for the Miami Dolphins. That put his hands right in your chest. Looking like a little Scrappy, putting them paws on you, like that's not supposed to happen. So I get frustrated with that stuff, like run fits and just making sure you're solid against the run because you're running basic stuff. So you're working on basic techniques. So you should be able to run basic stuff, and at least be able to slow down the run. It was at one point, Mike McDaniel was just like, you know what, man, line down. We're just gonna run it again. That left side is soft. So we just gonna continue to run. And you saw them drive the ball right down the field and get into the end zone. So yeah, that was the frustrating part for me, and I'm not gonna necessarily blame Jimmy Lake wholeheartedly for that. I feel like there's the guys out on the field, they're the blame. Like Free said, like the players are to blame when it comes to guys just lining down, just run the same play over and over again. Yeah. So yeah, that was my most frustrating piece. I give Jimmy Lake just a little bit of it. Little blame, but most of it goes to the players. It has to, and it starts with 17.
Yeah, if you can't set the edge. I was just gonna say, like, that ain't on coaching. If you can't set the edge, that's 100% on the player. If you can't get off a block, that ain't on coaching. That's 100% the players.
Yeah. What about on offense? What are your thoughts about Zach Robinson and the game he called?
I thought it was pretty conservative. But I get it. Again, we're talking earlier about Nathan Rourke, like, I get it being conservative with that. I thought with Penix it was kind of conservative. Of course we just want to see Penix just go out there and just air it out, but I get it. Yes, I get it. So again, it's preseason. You just kind of want to do the basic stuff to allow guys to see what they can execute, what they can't execute. So again, I don't think anybody should look at this game and be like, oh no, is Zach Robinson a good play call? Don't read too much into it, but it was a pretty basic vanilla sort of game plan, and nothing special, nothing sexy. I'm fully expecting Zach Robinson to just pull out all the stops against the Steelers week one. That those first 15 plays against the Steelers are going to be beautiful. That's 100% my expectation. I'll complain about Zach Robinson's play calling if that doesn't happen. Not until then.
You know what? I had a proud moment for Zach Robinson. When it was 3rd and 1, they threw that fade route. I was just like, oh, okay, all right. And then they came back 4th down, fourth and short, 4th and goal. They turned around and handed that bad boy off to Carlos Washington. I was like, oh, there you go, coach. There you go. You listen to your head coach, because the head coach said we're gonna run the damn football. Like, that was his words, exact quote from Raheem Morris himself. He said we're gonna run the damn football. So yeah, to see them pound that bad boy in there, let those offensive linemen come off the ball and mash those guys and lean forward instead of have to backpedal, to protect the quarterback. Yeah, that was one proud moment. I was like, okay, they're not going to sit back and try to sling the ball 45 times a game, because I don't want to see that. I'm sorry. That's not cute to me. Run the ball, have an identity, use the offensive line that you have. So, yeah, it was cool to kind of see him. It's like, all right, let's everybody calm down. Turn around and hand the ball off, and we'll get it in zone.
Yeah, because nobody wants to see any type of throw it to the backside of the end zone and when you're at the 1 foot line, and let's see what we get. Yeah, anybody got time? So
if it's Michael Penix, I do kind of want to see that, but I understand.
free.
See, man, look, you just going rogue, man. Look, what you with the black and white new world?
Hey, I want to see as much. Look, we're not going to see Michael Penix play for 2 years. I want to see as much Michael Penix slinging the football this summer as I possibly can get.
Yeah. You want to get your MPX full. I get it. You want to get your fill. So, okay, we'll let you have that. Well, the Falcons, of course, are going to go back in the lab, regroup, and reset for next game. We'll talk about that in What's Next. This episode of our Locked On Falcons postcast is brought to you by BetterHelp. And actually, that will be LinkedIn Jobs. So we'll talk about LinkedIn Jobs. Instead, when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. It helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl and be like 2.5 million other small businesses that use LinkedIn for hiring. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, JD, it's back to the lab. Of course, the Falcons will look to regroup as they get set to travel to Baltimore for their next preseason game. But what do you want to see in their preparation during the week? First, let's talk about that.
You know what? I know with all the limitations on how hard they can go at practice, be able to hit. I'm not talking about bringing guys to the ground, but I feel like they need to work on the point of attack because like I said, I did not like what I saw in the run game on both sides. Aaron talked about on offense running the ball. I didn't like what the defense looked like as far as against the run, So I feel like there is some areas that's the area that they probably need to focus on, focusing on not necessarily just thudding, like let's thud and kind of, take a couple steps and, and kind of really get into each other before we kind of, shut it down. So I think that needs to be the emphasis. I'm sure. And then clean up some of those procedural stuff, like snaps and, 4-year, 5-year veteran, 6-year veteran, whatever Taylor Heineke is, you shouldn't be fumbling snaps at this point, sir. I'm sorry. So, I think that's the type of stuff, those penalties, start cleaning some of that stuff up and getting that run game together on both sides. I feel like that should be the focus going into this game because hopefully we'll see a few more starters. I know we won't see Kirk, but hopefully we'll see a few more starters in this second game as they try to get ready to tune up for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm of the same mind as Jarvis. Like, this back in the day, it's like we doing padded practices this week, right? We need to get some physicality, but that's not how they roll today, So I'm very curious to see how Raheem kind of does that, how he makes that adjustment, because again, that's not how they do things today. So, but like, I agree with Jarvis. Like the trenches is probably where I would like to see the most work done. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I think that's really about it. It's just mostly just get better in the trenches, just wanting to see some of those guys, we know Baltimore's going to bring it from a physicality standpoint next week. So that to me is the main thing.
Yeah. And Jarvis, you kind of alluded to it. Who might you want to see on the field next week? Because to Free's point, I think physicality is going to be a different kind of challenge when you take on Baltimore. So who do you want to see on either or both sides of the ball that the Falcons will put into action next week?
You know what? Like it has to be Mr. Anderson and Mr. Landman, because I want to see that continue to kind of grow, just from a competition standpoint. because I think Free even talked about it on Twitter a little bit earlier, as far as like how those quote unquote position battles haven't been all that fascinating. If you really want to kind of dive into it, because it looks like Mike Hughes is going to be the guy, at the corner spot, and Clark Phillips is all right. Sure, I like what I saw in Kevin King. Can Kevin King get part of that thing too? Can he kind of start pushing some folks, because he had a nice knack for the ball tonight against the Miami Dolphins. So I feel like when you look at it from that standpoint, getting these position battles, can they get ramped up? Can we see those guys really start to push each other to say, hey, let's at least have a conversation about you supplanting the incumbent, right? So Nate Lamont being an incumbent at that linebacker spot. I want to see Troy push them. You know what I'm saying? I know I talk a lot of trash about Troy, and and will continue to do that, but I do want to see what it is, that they saw in him when they took him in the second round.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Those are probably the two guys that I want to see. Again, if it was up to me, like I'm playing I'm Mike Tomlin. I'm playing my starters in the preseason. That's how I would do it if I was running things. But like I get it. Like I'm not gonna complain about it. Grady ain't coming out. Grady.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm fine when I say
Jesse Bates, AJ. Like y'all ain't playing. I need you this season. Zero chance. And then probably about half the starters. But like for me, like I would probably play more guys. But of the guys that sat tonight, Troy and Nate Lamont are probably the two guys that I'm most eager to see.
Yeah, indeed. And I'm just going to co-sign on that. So we'll make it 3 for 3. I can't wait to see those guys, hopefully in action next week. And then you can kind of see what a real position battle looks like, because we haven't quite seen the battles as intensely as we thought they were going to be, at least up to now through training camp. Thanks to every players. Yes, sir. You got one more?
Yes. Rook or Ro. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? I know you were on the field. I saw your number, but I need to see a little bit more than that, sir. Yeah, there we go.
JD's looking for you, man. Show up and show out next week. Thanks to our players for making the Locked On Falcons postcast your first listen of the day. Be sure to stop by Locked On Falcons for your second YouTube channel. We're also free and available wherever you download your podcasts. We'll see you next time.